Hey guys, this is Shadowwise916, and I am now going to start reading part 8. Hopefully you guys are ready. And here's the next chapter, called Taken. Where are they? You told me they would meet at this time. No? Jane said impatiently. Calm down, they should be here, I assured. She rolled her dark eyes and leaned against a rotting tree. The whistle of the wind matched with the talk of the crickets at this late hour. The smell of crisp pine and sleeping flowers wafted through the air. As much as it was peaceful, I was anxious. I needed to save her and get her away from those creatures. I didn't know fully why she had chosen to be one of them, only that it was for their safety. But I guess I couldn't deny that since she is a caring person. I was brought out of my worrying thoughts by the crunching of the grass and leaves. Clark? Michael searched. Right here, I said, looking through the shadow of the trees. Out stepped Michael and the rest. I missed from the campground. There wasn't any warm hugs or hellos, since they played their eyes on Jane and Tails. Why are they here? You didn't tell me you were in league with them, Michael said angrily. We had no choice. It was either that or no choice at all, I stated. She shifted it in his shoes and eyed Jane. He shifted in his shoes and eyed Jane. He looked back to me, and I tried telling him with my eyes what was planned. He sighed and walked past me up to her, looking her up and down. Can we trust you? He questioned. More or less. Now let's get going before your teammates wake up and realize we're gone. We need to find a different spot for you guys to camp, she answered and turned to face Tails. She nodded to him and opened the portal back up and we began to step through. Get ready for a wild ride, I warned them before stepping through. Ariel's point of view. Jeff and I were walking around the woods like we did every night, simply to just get away and hang out. I wasn't bothered by it one bit, and I could tell Jeff wasn't either. We wove our fingers between each other's and walked in the dark, starry night. I guess I had to agree with Jeff. Whatever in a million years did I believe this would happen, yet here I am, holding hands with a killer who can be one of the sweetest guys out there. If you're me, anyone else would be carving doll to him. That was a good dinner you made. I like your cooking, he said, interrupting the silence. Really? Thank you, I said with a smile. I just might have you cook for me all the time, he chuckled. Hey, I'm not a master chef, but I would be happy to, I laughed. After a meal like that, you're joking, he scoffed. Well, Miss P helped, I pointed out. He was about to say something when I cut him off. Shh, I hear something, I whispered. Or whatever. He nodded and took his knife out of his pocket, instantly turning from playful to serious. We crept towards the sound I made out as the portal being opened, but who would be using a portal? I peeked my head out from behind a tree and saw a group of people walk out of it. Some human. How did they get here? Then I saw her. No, I said, shocked. Jeff noticed too, and he tensed up. I thought I killed her, he hissed. Jane turned to them and started talking to them like they were one of her. Okay, stick close. Don't need you getting caught, she said, turning to walk into the forest. Jeff tensed up even more, and I could feel the heat coming off of him. Are they working together or something? He asked angrily. I don't know, Jeff. Where are you going? I asked as we walked out from behind the tree into the open, completely visible. What the hell do you think you're doing? Jeff growled. They all turned to face him, and the humans started getting into defensive positions. I could make out their faces now. Clark, Michael, Amy, Lainey, Ethan? What are you doing here? I questioned, also coming. You know her? Jane asked. Ariel, come with us. Ariel, come with us, Michael asked. No, get out of here before you get hurt, I demanded. Not without you. She's not going anywhere with you guys, Jeff spat, taking a step towards Lainey. She stepped back and he smirked, resuming his normal position. Jane smiled and stepped up a bit. Did you miss me? She laughed. Not one bit, Jeff replied. Oh, that's too bad. I missed you, she joked. How the hell are you alive? Jeff asked. Well, my buddies found me, sewed me back together, and shocked me back to life. Kinda like a Jane Frankenstein, she explained. You should be rotting into the ground, he said through gritted teeth. Not before you, she grinned. The whole time they were talking, my friend had made their way to me secretly and grabbed me, pulling me back. Let me go, I shouted. Jeff turned to me and eyed them. Jane took this opportunity and came behind him and hooked her arm around his neck. She threw him to the ground as my friend started tugging me back. I tried so hard to fight back, but Clark bound my hands. Let me go, I hissed. I'm sorry, Ariel, but we need to bring you home. This place isn't it, Michael apologized. You're not them, Ethan agreed. I fell to my knees and started to try and dig my bound hands into the dirt. It was worth a try, but it failed, and I heard a portal open behind me. Jeff stabbed Jane in the leg and hit her head on the ground. He jolted up and towards me, the worry for me in his eyes. Jeff! I screamed as my shoulder hit the ground and my hair draped over the dark grass. He started running even faster, but he was too late. I was brought into the vortex, and I couldn't see his face anymore. I heard everyone yelling until we came to a halt onto hard concrete ground. Even more screams were heard, but it wasn't my friends. I looked up and saw a woman looking at me with fear, and many others did the same. A cop's eyes were wide open, then he looked relieved. Good job, you caught one of the sick bastards, he said, walking up to me. A hunter came up and ran up too, instantly yanking me up. Wait, I heard Michael protest. Thanks, newbies. We'll take it from here, the hunter said, smiling at me evilly. He gagged me and kicked me to the ground. It's a shame you're one of them, but we gotta do what we gotta do, he said, clearly unsorry. What are we gonna do with her? The cop asked. Execute her in public, as a message to her little friends, he snickered. Next chapter. Beginning of the war. I could only hear muffled yelling, but that's all I really wanted to hear. But I guess I didn't have a choice. My head hurt, my arms hurt, my legs, everything hurt. They didn't know, the hunters didn't want them to. The beating behind cold barred doors, the whips to bats, or sometimes just bare hands. But it didn't matter as long as they got to hurt me. The one thing they weren't allowed to use on me was a gun. Not yet, anyway. I slowly came to, and my hearing and eyesight wasn't so blurry. I could see a huge crowd of people trying to get past the barricades around me. Some to hurt me themselves, and some to save me. Those who were sympathetic were either people I knew or creepypasta lovers. I was tied up against a stone statue that which I knew what it was once I got a good visual on my surroundings. It was a plaza, one that I went to when I was younger for choir performances in grade school. Across from it were multiple restaurants, bakeries, or office. One place that I loved most was a tiny little candy shop called the Nutcracker. But nothing about this situation was sweet, nor was it likable. It was like a huge riot that not even the hunters could keep from breaking out. You could tell just by the trouble the cops were having. "Let her go! That's my baby!" a woman cried. I looked over and I saw my mom crying and trying to get past the barrier. A cop was restraining her and eventually to the ground. It made me grow with anger, and I tried to get out of my restraints, but it was to no avail. I couldn't say anything, or else it would be gagged out by the cloth they wrapped around my head. It was still there from when I was first captured. My dad and my stepdad were pushing back the cops, but eventually more came and outnumbered their strength. I was helpless, and it was the number one thing I hated. Not only them, but my friends who had put me in this situation were fighting the law enforcers as well. Clark was being held back by Luke and his team, who were struggling to keep him under control. "Get a hold of yourself!" Luke screamed at him. Clark yanked his arm from Luke's grasp and glared at him. Michael was tackled to the ground along with Ethan and some other friends I knew. Nick, a friend from school, punched a cop in the face and was immediately tased to the ground. He was frightened so badly to get to me, and I knew that was his attitude. Two other familiar faces popped up in the area of people. Sage and Brandon, two others from school, School looked sad and angry at the same time. They knew they couldn't fight the law. Joanna was pushing people out of the way and punched a random person in the stomach, probably someone who was cheering for my execution. So many people I knew were there. Whose side they were on were unknown, though some looked upset as they were looking at my bruised body tied up as a trophy to humankind. But the only people I wanted there were the ones I loved like family. "This isn't right. She doesn't even kill," a person from the crowd screamed. Many others screamed in agreement, as others screamed in hate. A hunter heard this and turned to face the onlookers, clearly ready to protest. "She's an accomplice. She has chosen for many to die, as if she believes they deserve it. Those people should not die in vain," he argued. I grew with even more rage and opened my mind. "How dare you criticize me, you pathetic being hypocrites, to me because of my difference? Do you not do the same in a courtroom? Yeah, I see what happens behind closed doors. Even though without walking inside and for that I should be frowned upon. You hate me because I know the truth," I screamed in their heads. Everyone held their hands up to their ears except for ones who wanted me protected. A hunter struggled his way up to a cop and started reaching for his taser. He instantly spun to face me and unleashed electricity into my body. I screamed a muffled scream and began writhing in pain. Eventually it stopped and I stumbled a bit and began breathing heavily. "You can't handle what I have to say. You desired to kill me. I hope you learn your lesson," I said weakly in their heads. The hunter stopped and shot another spark into my body, causing me to scream once more. This time it lasted longer and I couldn't take it. A cop with some heart walked up to the hunter and began fighting him for the taser. "That's enough," he said. "We can't let her persuade these people. Who knows what she's capable of? Hunters, get ready to fire," she said. He said, signaling the others to raise their guns. That's a bad move," a familiar male voice echoed throughout the plaza. Everyone froze and looked around their surroundings. The hunter raised their guns to the air. How many cameras should I destroy? The boy pondered. This whole event was being recorded and broadcast live. Everyone in the world was probably watching this execution. 1, he said as a camera blew up in smoke. 2, he said again as another blew up. Maybe the whole area, he laughed. The whole street puffed up in smoke, and in a row the cameras blasted, all except one, and it had a perfect view of the whole area. This is perfect, he announced. Now, what makes you think you can hurt one of our own? He continued. Because she deserves to burn, a hunter screamed. You really shouldn't have done that. Don't mess with our family, the voice growled. Next chapter. How dare you? I smiled through the gag as I looked around for Ben. I'd never heard him so angry before, and I'm sure for some of the others here, it wasn't a good thing. His creepy laugh rang through everyone's ears, including mine. The hunters were nervous, as was everyone else, and they backed up a bit. Screams started to be heard around the plaza, and my head shot in different directions. Flashes of yellow, blue, and black jackets was seen through the crowds as bodies fell. A young girl with a bloody dress dragged an angry and unsuspecting hunter into the shadow of an alleyway. A small furry being moved from view towards the screams that were loud enough to be heard. ATV, well, that was a setup for some to get a better view of. The event shut down, then started back up. Red eyes, blonde hair, and an evil grin was placed on the screen. A husky-looking dog tackled down a man and began to maliciously attack him. I looked for my friends to make sure they were safe, and they had all huddled up in a group, watching the attack in fear. They played their eyes on me, and all of them went wide. A woman screamed from behind me, but instantly stopped by a flesh-ripping sound. Footsteps grew louder, and I tried to see who it was. I felt the ropes around me move and slowly get a bit tighter. The tightness stopped, and they got loose, releasing my body from touching the stone. I fell forward and was waiting for me to hit the concrete ground when a pair of arms caught me, instantly melted into them, and at that moment I knew whose arms they were. I looked to see the man who I knew was falling in love with. His dark-rimmed eyes, looking at me with care and concern as he inspected me. He reached his hands to the cloth that kept me speechless and united it, letting it fall to the ground. Behind his care was pure hatred for basically everyone here. He looked at one of the bruise marks on my arm, then to the slash that was cut in my face, my lace outfit. He ran his finger over it gently, and I cringed a bit at the pain that I managed to heal. He growled, and his eyes fell behind me to someone who he hated with more passion than Jane. I looked, and I saw Clark standing there, staring at us through all the commotion. He looked angry and hurt, but the hurt not from physical pain. Jeff started walking towards him, and he pointed at him, his knife clutched in his other hand. You caused this, he screamed. Clark backed up and started reaching for his pistol, but was cut off by gunfire. We froze, looked to see hunters with guns aimed at us. Fire! He shouted. They began shooting, and I ran to Jeff. I took his hand, and we began dipping and dodging through the fleeing people. Hold your fire! We might hit a civilian! The hunter stopped. As we were running, I saw a young girl who seemed lost and confused. I let go of his hand and began walking towards her. Jeff stopped and looked around for me. Ariel! Ariel! He called out worriedly. I stepped closer to the girl, and she placed her eyes on me. She seemed frightened by my closeness to her, but relaxed a bit as I smiled a gentle smile at her. Hello, miss. she said softly. Hello, miss, she said softly. Hello, I replied. Are you okay? You look hurt, she asked, concerned. I'll be fine, I assured. I think it was mean they did do what they did to you, miss. No matter what my mommy says, she confessed. I smiled down at her even more and began to sing. Leave my child alone, you monster, a woman who must be her mom screamed. I looked at her, then back to the little girl who looked at me with worry. Do not worry, I whispered. I leaned down a bit and the woman got closer, starting into a run. Don't you dare touch her, she yelled. I ignored and placed a kiss upon the girl's head. The spot glowed a bit and went back to the normal peach color. The woman froze her steps and looked at me with shock. Stay innocent forever, I told her. The girl nodded and I started standing back up as the woman was still standing in surprise. A cop came up from behind her and took a shot but missed. Leave her alone, the young girl demanded. The cop took another shot and grazed my shoulder. I let out a small yelp of pain and touched it. He smirked and aimed right at my heart. I said leave her alone, she screamed. The cop ignored and took his last shot, but the girl jumped in front of me. No, the woman cried. The young girl looked down at herself and seemed confused. A small field was around her, protecting her from the gunshot. The woman cried with relief and ran to hug her child as the cop stood back dumbfounded. The woman rocked back and forth as she held the little girl tightly, tears running down her cheeks. She turned her up a bit and looked at me. Thank you, she thanked happily. The cop stumbled back a bit and eyed me with confusion. He slowly started to put his gun away when another man ran up and grabbed it. The gun once again pointed at me. Give me back my gun, he demanded as he reached for it. The man yanked away and fired up in the struggle. The woman shot up and towards the man, also grabbing the gun. Go, she shouted. I nodded and waved to the girl and began running. Jeff, I shouted as I started pushing people aside. You're not going anywhere, a hunter hissed at me. He took out a rifle and began shooting. I jolted out of my current spot and around objects to keep from getting shot as I made my way through the maze. I ran behind the statue and around it, tricking the hunter into passing me. He soon caught on and started following me again. I felt a pain in my side as a bullet lodged itself into my skin. I bit my lip as I started running faster, catching sight of Jeff's raggedy black hair. He saw me and started pushing people aside to get me. Behind him was something that would stop every hunter in their tracks. Jeff reached out his hand and stretched my arm, and I stretched my arm out to it. Time seemed to slow down as I almost had my hand in his, but as soon as it slowed, it became faster again as I grabbed it, and he pulled me to him defensively. I turned to see the hunter looking up, petrified at what was before him. Sandy grew taller and spread out his arms. Tentacles grew out of his back and reached out into everyone, including my friends and family who were watching from the other side of the almost cleared plaza. His tentacles moved like snakes on the move, never stopping. Everyone I loved so much were standing behind them, each taking a defensive stance. Ben had an evil grin on his face, while Masky, Hoodie, and Jack each held a bloodied weapon. Bloody weapon. Miss P stretched out her neck even more and hunched over. Smile arched his back and gave everyone a demonic smile, and Sally eyed everyone like Candy's craziness danced in her eyes. Jeff had his arms around me, shooting death stares at everyone, fresh blood on his jacket. How dare you touch one of our own? If you ever think to do it again, I will massacre each so-called hunter to the point where they're unidentifiable. Slendy's voice boomed. He reached a tentacle to a hunter who reached for a knife. He picked him up and threw him into the statue with such force that the statue began to crack and break. He fell back to the ground and started coughing uncontrollably. He slowed it down as he looked up to us with hate, and reached for a gun laying nearby. The sound of the stone falling snaked through the air, and he turned his attention to it. He screamed in terror as the heavy creation fell on top of him, smashing him and splattering blood upon the already stained ground. Sandy brought all of his tentacles back to encircle us, ready to bring us back home. My eyes fell on Clark and them once more and clenched his fists. I looked away and saw the woman I hated the most. "Your plan didn't work," I said in her head. She shook with anger and backed up into the portal that appeared as we did the same. Next chapter, East Payne. We stumbled into the mansion I knew so well and caught our breaths. I still ached and I couldn't stop the bleeding in my side. The warm liquid spread throughout my outfit and I couldn't help but feel dizzy. Not because I was sick, but because of the fact I'd lost so much blood. No one had noticed the blood until I almost fell over, catching the chair for support. My head was throbbing more than I ever had, and I couldn't see straight. The room spun around, and everyone's faces were blurred. A figure who I thought was Jeff ran up to me and held me in his arms. If I could see, I'm sure I would see those dark dots that were his eyes be filled with worry. The slight feel of raindrops fell on my head from sorrowful eyes. Are you crying?" I started. The ability to complete a full sentence with perfection was beyond my limits at this point. "Ariel, please be okay," he said sniffling. I gave a small laugh and laid my head on his chest. I'll be perfectly fine," I managed to say before my voice died, and so did my vision as my eyes closed. Jeff's point of view. She stopped in mid-sentence, and I began to panic. My heart rate went up, and so did my nervousness. I crouched down and quickly put my head to her chest. Searching for any sign of life, I prayed for it, needed it, wanted it. So many things have I realized since she arrived 2 months ago. It's already been that long, and I didn't want to lose the most precious thing to me. Ba-bump. She's still alive. Ba-bump. It was so slow, like a broken player on the drums. Ba-bump. I won't let her die. It would be so different if she just dropped off the face of the earth. Her memory still haunting me, making me have stained cheeks of clear liquid mixed with red as I massacred people in a haze. I wouldn't think straight. Locked myself up in my room, being guarded by my own emotional monster. Nothing but her hypnotizing lullabies to make me who I once was. Someone who hated those beyond my world. Nothing making me stop, except the stopping of the lifeline of the victim. Only she is the one person I can look at and become a puppy for. Cheered up instantly by her presence. Oh, how quickly it changes when I looked at other people like she or I used to be. I picked her up like a delicate bride and ran upstairs into my room. I set her down gently and started searching crazily for anything to save her. My door opened behind me, and in came Jack and Slendy. Jack was holding surgical tweezers while Slendy held a big first aid kit. They didn't say a word and proceeded to go towards her, only talking with their actions. I wasn't going to say a word for fear of messing up the operation, if that's what it was even called. How could something so small drain her so quickly? But then I remembered the bruises and cuts on her, how they beat and hurt her, not giving a damn about her in any way. They just saw her for what they believed her to be. I gritted my teeth in rage as I saw them stitch up her open wounds that they gave her. I stood there for an hour or so after they'd finished on her, waiting to see her dark, gorgeous eyes open up. I was so stressed, I didn't know if she had made it, though Cindy said she had. But I still stayed freaked out as she lay there, not moving. I got up and placed my head back on her chest. Bum-bum, bum-bum, bum-bum. Her heart was beating faster, a good sign. I slowly raised my head and she moved. Excited, I brought my eyes up to her face, and she was smiling down at me. Ariel's point of view. "Why, hello there," I said softly. He just smiled the biggest smile on his face. I swore I saw him somewhat tearing up. He placed his lips on mine, and it felt loving. It was a kiss that you would hear about in a fairy tale, the kiss the loving couple gave each other. Like the movie Beauty and the Beast, when Belle and the now prince kissed after she thought he died. A kiss thinking that they'd never seen the other that they'd never seen the person they loved again. But this story is far from over. We haven't beaten our Goshen yet. Next chapter. Our song. I was resting, or trying to anyway. My eyes wouldn't just rest like they could every night. In fact, they haven't been able to for a while now. Perhaps putting a washcloth over them could help, but it could be better than tossing and turning in my blood-stained sheets. As I lay there, I couldn't help but start hearing things. Footsteps slightly padding down the hall, the stairs creaking with weight upon them, to a door slightly shutting on the first floor. I wasn't frightened, nor was I going to be. I'm a killer, for Christ's sakes. I tried to slow my breathing so I could hear easier. The faint melody of the piano was playing. Could it be? I got up and wiped some of the sweat off my forehead. Happy I had gotten out from under the suffocating sheets, I tried to be as quiet as possible when I began walking to my door and opened it. The cool air of the hallway touching my white face. I peeked around the doorway to see if anyone else had possibly gotten up because of the piano playing, but I found everyone else was asleep. I crept down the hall and down the stairs onto the main floor with swiftness. The piano playing was slightly louder, and the way it was written, it must have been a slow song. It has to be. I opened the door slowly and walked in, shutting it behind me. The piano playing stopped and I continued walking away. Piano playing started again, and it was the same song I heard earlier. I walked through the archway into the piano room to see Ariel sitting and playing softly. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," I said while sitting down next to her. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked. "Yeah," I replied. "Same." She sighed as she began to play again. She had written a song in front of her. Only lyrics were on the paper, though. Did you write this?" I questioned. "Mm-hmm," she answered. I picked the paper up and started reading the lyrics. It looked like a song for a couple. Very well written, I have to say. "What's it for?" "Just a song I wanted to make. I never made a couple songs, so I decided to make one." She laughed. Her white nightgown hung off her shoulder and flowed a bit above her knees. It was made for her like it was meant for her. The moonlight through the window glinted off the black instrument in front of us and illuminated her eyes, making her look somewhat like an angel. She put her fingers upon the ivory keys and started over again, singing along with it. "I never thought that I could ever be so hopeless for you, and I decided you're my other half, but you don't have a clue. But these precious little things little things I hold dear, make my heart flutter like sweet whispers in my ear. Forever is a promise I intend to keep. I wanted to wake up and go to sleep with you." I chuckled at the last part and started reading the lyrics, and though I'm not much of a singer, I decided to sing along. "I never thought that insanity could be lost before you. Cold as ice from the beginning, now warm when I let you in. Don't know don't know what to do. But these precious little things I hold dear, make my heart flutter like sweet whispers in my ear. Forever is a promise I intend to keep. I want to wake up and go to sleep with you. She looked at me and smiled as I sang softly along with her. She flipped the page and pointed to a line indicating for me to sing. All of you is what makes me smile, so please stay for a little while. Can't stop these voices in my head. Let one kiss represent what hasn't been said. So let me know what you truly feel inside. They'll come out because they can no longer hide. We sang the chorus one more time, and the piano playing gradually got slower, signaling the ending of the song. But these precious little things I hold dear make my heart flutter like sweet whispers in my ear. I hope that you will always be mine, every single day, especially on Valentine's. Forever is a promise I intend to keep. I want to wake up and go to sleep with you. We stopped and looked at each other, happiness coming from both of us. I leaned in and kissed her, and she kissed back. Putting her hands on my neck, we pulled away and stared into each other's eyes. That song is beautiful, I said. Thank you, she giggled. I kissed her again and pulled her to me, the kiss still staying gentle. Come on, you'll rest with me in my room for the rest of the morning, I said, picking her up. Okay, she said tiredly. After that song, we both became really tired, not because it was boring, but because it just soothed us. Leaving it to her to make another lullaby, she wrapped her arms around my neck as I carried her up the stairs into my room, which was just a couple doors down from mine. I placed her gently on the bed, and she snuggled into its warmth. I laid down next to her and brought her to me, setting my chin on her head. It felt right to me, like this moment was something that couldn't go wrong, and it couldn't. The faint sound of her breathing indicated that she was sleeping, and I just stayed there, slowly drifting to sleep with her in my arms. Last chapter of Part 8. Arrival of Friends. Get up, lovebirds, Ben's voice laughed. Jeff stretched and rolled the other way, trying to ignore Ben. He smiled at me, and I began giggling. Ben walked over and just started shaking the bed. So I held onto the bed as I began laughing hard. Jeff laughing but annoyed. And I thought you guys did things, he said as fully dressed Jeff fell off the bed. I guess he wasn't fully dressed since he was wearing just pajama bottoms. I looked at an amused Ben, who soon was dragged to the floor, and Jeff got up. Why does it interest you on what we do? Jeff asked, pinning Ben down. It would be amusing to tell everyone, Maskey said, as he and Hoodie entered the room. Oh, great. The Ringling brothers are here, Jeff sighed as he got up. Da 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 da. Hoodie and Maskey sang as they danced. Ha, polka dots, Ben added. Don't start that, I groaned. Why? Hoodie asked as Maskey was on top of his shoulders. They both stopped to look at me as if they'd been caught doing something bad. Maskey fell off of his shoulders, and Hoodie asked if he hadn't done it. Maskey hit the ground with a thud and groaned in pain. Asshole, Maskey said as he slowly got up. Don't dove my ears deceive me? Excuse me, sir, but I am not an asshole. I have one butt, Hoodie corrected. And this is where things get weird, I laughed. And this is where things get weird, I laughed. Tell me about it, Jeff chuckled. He held out a hand for me to take, and I grabbed it, being helped out of the warmth of the bed. He hugged me, and I set my head on his chest. Ben groaned and walked over to us, splitting us apart. Leave your affections for another time. We got some company downstairs anyway, he said, backing up. Yeah, good old Splendy is here, along with Lost Silver and Bob, they said. So basically the whole shebang, I questioned. What is a shebang? Masky wondered as Hoodie stepped up. Yep, you get to meet the rest of the family, Hoodie said. What about Granny? I asked. Well, Granny isn't technically a creepypasta. People just assumed we did, but nevertheless, he lives here and won't leave. Miss P alone, people got that one right, Ben explained. Where's he been? Who knows? He does what he pleases, go where he wants, kind of like the Cheshire Cat, Hoodie said. Oh, I see, I said, grasping at everything. Meow, came the sound from behind us. We turned around and lo, and behold, there was Granny. He was licking his paw and stopped to look up at us. Well, speak of the devil, Hoodie chuckled. Granny jumped down from his position and walked over to me, rubbing the arch of his back on my leg. Well, hello there, I giggled as I picked him up. Meow. I began petting him and he started purring. I started petting him and he started purring. He seemed content until we heard the patting of a familiar canine coming down the hall. Smile ran and came to halt, his eyes falling on Granny. Granny hissed and his hair stood on end, and Smile began to growl. And so it begins, Jeff sighed. Granny hopped down and ran out of the room, Smile following closely behind, barking his head off. Well, there's our mad family for you, Nasty said. I think I can handle. I've been with you guys for what, 2 to 3 months now? I'm okay. I laughed as I took Jeff's hand and began walking out of the room. I started thinking in my head and realized I must look like a mess. I usually wasn't prepared to walk down there with my hair messed up and me looking like I just woke up, which I had. Be right back. I'm going to go get ready, I said as I let go of his hand. Okay, he said with a kiss on the forehead. I ran to my room and got into the shower. I loved the feel of the warm, smooth water on my skin. I couldn't stay in there for long, so I got out and into the steam-filled room and dried myself with dry towels that was hung on the floor. I threw my lace outfit on and dried my hair a bit. The smell of vanilla and cherries off my body into my nose was good, and it was a good scent. I ran out of my room and down the stairs to meet everyone talking, catching up. Well, if it isn't the Masked Maiden, I've been waiting to see you. A cheery voice came from my right. I looked to see Splendorman walking up and giving me a hug. His polka dot suit was an illumination to my still awakening eyes. A pretty flower in one of his pockets. Nice to meet you, I said with a smile as I hugged back. I've been waiting to meet you as well. I'm happy I'm finally getting to. A boy who had black hair, clothes from Pokemon, and no limbs. The boy seemed sad, but he had a smile on his face. Blood dripped from his wounds and eyes as if he had recently been injured. Another being showed up, and he, too, had no limbs. He had a spacey smile and just looked at me happily, easily seeing that he could not speak. Bob made a groan noise and nodded his head at me. It's a pleasure to meet both of you. I'm sorry it's at a bad time. I apologize. Yes, the war. That, my dear, is something that you should not apologize for. We have dealt with people trying to catch us before. Indeed, it is not as serious as before, but it's still something we've prepared for. We knew perfectly well that sooner or later we would be revealed, Slendy assured. Besides, we're pretty smart and strong, even Bob here. Lost Silver said, nudging Bob. Bob moaned in agreement and again nodded. So, what's the sudden drop by, brother? Slendy asked. To help you guys, of course. It's not just the hunters, it's Jane and them too, Ben said. Why am I not surprised? Lost sighed. Because she's a bitch, Jeff said. Tell me about it, Hoodie and Mesquian groaned. It's unfortunate we have a law go by, never kill our own, but apparently Jane cannot abide by those rules, Slendy hissed. Jeff looked away to me and I smiled. It was our secret to them, and though I hated being like this to them, I'm sure they would not be pleased with the fact that Jeff had originally killed her. It's not like she's like us anyway, Ben said. Why was she even there the day I met her? I questioned. Because we decided to be nice and invite her on a killing spree for a couple hours. We didn't know that she was going to head to our house to meet up, Slendy said. Well, I didn't exactly tell her to meet us in the human world, Ben confessed nervously. Smooth. Because of you, she could have died that morning, Jeff growled. I'm sorry. I wasn't aware that we were going to have her that morning, if I remember correctly, Ben defended. Jeff glared at him and lowered his voice. Next time, don't mess up. If you do, and it puts her life at risk, I found it, you caused it, you're a dead man, Jeff threatened. Whoa, calm down, Jeff. It was an honest mistake. None of us knew that she would have been there. Neither did you, Jack defended. Jeff rolled his eyes and muttered, I'm sorry. Hey, Slendy, you might want to check on the food in the kitchen. Smells like it's burning, Hoodie pointed out. Slendy teased and seemed confused. I already set it out for breakfast, Slendy assured. Everyone froze in silence as smoke reached all of our lungs. It began clouding around us, and some began coughing, including me. Where is that coming from? I questioned as I started coughing even more. Flush them out! Someone screamed from outside. Something smashed through the wall and landed on the floor behind the couch. I looked over the edge of it and saw something shiny. Ariel, get away! Jeff screamed as he grabbed me. Boom! Slendy screamed but was cut off by the explosion. Jeff had gotten to me right when it went off, and I flew back, the heat of the bomb's fire hitting my skin. Well, guys, that's it for part 8, and I know this part is so intense, and hopefully it gets better because it's kind of sounding bad right now. But yeah, hopefully everything is okay in the next part. So yeah, see you guys in the next part. Bye.